On air, Oprah was portrayed as this wholesome, sweet lady, but according to her stepmom, there's an unknown side to Oprah, one that she hid from her fans for, well, years. So according to Barbara, Oprah is one of the most controlling people you will ever meet. She claimed that when, she wanted to come and visit, Oprah was like, no, you're not staying at my house. You're gonna stay in a hotel, and I'm not paying for that. You better pay for that yourself. Also, apparently Oprah was quick to anger when it came to her staff, with a lot of folks being fired left and right over the years for, well, no reason. But here's the thing. Even though Oprah doesn't let Barbara stay in her house, despite being a billionaire who could afford to stay in a hotel, when Oprah goes to visit Barbara, Barbara allows her to stay at home. Which, Oprah's like, I guess. Apparently the first time Oprah stayed over at Barbara's, she allegedly complained that her bed sheets were not 8,000 threads and that her bath towels weren't big enough. Look lady, you've got how much money? You could bring your own towels, your own bed sheets if you really wanted. You don't have to make your family feel like a burden just because it's not up to your standards. Thanks to Oprah's weakness for theories that kind of veered towards the decidedly out there, her legacy isn't exactly spotless. Sure, on one hand, she has endorsed plenty of credible things in her heyday. Barack Obama, John Steinbeck's East of Eden, which became a bestseller after being featured on The Oprah Winfrey Show in 2003, a whole 51 years after it was published. But on the other hand, we have Oprah to blame, and I mean blame, for the rise of former actor Jenny McCarthy, who first said her opinion that vaccinations cause autism on The Oprah Winfrey Show in 2007 to disastrous effect. McCarthy has since been repeatedly cited as a factor in the return of diseases such as whooping cough in the US. Another one, Dr. Oz, the famed Turkish-American heart surgeon, first appeared on The Oprah Winfrey Show in 2004 and quickly became, along with, Phil McGraw and Rachel Ray, part of Oprah's team of experts who regularly appeared on the show. Now, Oz dispenses with facts he doesn't find convenient, and manifests an egregious lack of integrity by promoting quack treatments and cures in the interest of personal financial gain. He's more like a Kardashian than a surgeon, according to some of his critics, which includes many of his colleagues, who argue that Oz's endorsement under a medical banner of certain remedies, ranging from the pseudoscientific to the downright kooky, is immoral. Now, he has argued that the Dr. Oz show was not a medical show. So, in other words, he seemed to be saying people would be better off taking medical advice from Dr. Pepper than from Dr. Oz. Alright, well, give me a can. The legend of Oprah Winfrey as an extremely poor girl growing up without a father, a too young mother who, Oprah claimed, carried with shame during pregnancy and then neglected her, spread like wildfire when Oprah began giving interviews in Chicago. She was like, oh, how they harmed me. I wanted to be white because I never saw white people being hurt. Now, she remembered her early years as lonely. She didn't play with anybody except for the pigs she rode without a saddle in her grandmother's garden. She mentioned, verbatim, the only thing I could talk to was the animals in the farmyard. I read them Bible stories. Apparently the years spent with a mother on welfare were even worse. They were so poor they couldn't afford a dog or a cat, so she had 2 cockroaches as pets. She put them in a jar, named them Melinda and Sandy, and she entertained her audiences with stories about fetching water from the well, milking cows, emptying the drinking pot. A fairy tale, really. She told stories about a grandmother who swung a switch, a grandfather who was quick with a stick, the people who raised her for the earliest years of life. She mentioned, oh, they harmed me. Oh, I wanted to be white. She mentioned this repeatedly, folks. She mentioned that her grandmother used to harm her all the time because allegedly it's an integral part of Southern tradition. The way folks were raised. You spill something, you get a thrashing. You tell a story, you get a thrashing. She mentioned that her grandmother could have done that all the time and not get tired. Well, here's the thing. Not everybody in Oprah's family agreed with this desperate upbringing. Her mother, Vernita Lee, when asked about her daughter's habits of self-dramatization, said, yeah, Oprah's a bit of a cold smoker. And Oprah's sister later dispelled the myth of immense poverty. Patricia said, of course we weren't rich, but Oprah exaggerated how bad it was for us. She guesses that Oprah did this because the viewers would love her, the audience would grow. But she's like, cockroaches were never her pet. She always had a dog. She had a white cat. She had an eel in a tank, a parakeet named Bo Peep, who she taught to speak. Where Oprah got that nonsense about growing up in filth and roaches, I have no idea. That was another statement made by her cousin, Catherine Carr. She's mentioned that she's confronted her. She asked, Oprah, why do you tell such lies? And Oprah allegedly said, that's what people want to hear. The truth is boring. Well, I don't know about you, but I just want to know the truth. So Oprah has been recently called out for using weight loss medication, despite being a long-time ambassador for Weight Watchers. Seriously. they're kind of synonymous. The famous talk show host has confirmed she uses an unnamed substance to help control her weight. In a revealing chat, Oprah said her latest slim figure is thanks to the medication and a healthier lifestyle overall. She's like, I now use it as I feel I need it, and she mentioned like the fact that there's a medically approved prescription for managing weight and staying healthier in her lifetime feels like a relief, like redemption, like a gift, and not something to hide behind and once again be ridiculed for. In a conversation with People magazine, Oprah concluded, I'm absolutely done with the shaming from other people and particularly myself. However, some fans felt the billionaire philanthropist was feeling hypocritical. Once again, given she is a proud spokesperson for Weight Watchers. She's worked with them since 2017, if not before that. One social media user wrote, what I don't like about Oprah is she is clearly doing Ozempic, but yet she's still pushing Weight Watchers. And another person was like, okay, done with the shaming, but okay with lying. Others called out the star for letting folks believe she did it the old-fashioned way, asking once again, the party line for today, Oprah, why are you lying? So here's the thing. Confidentiality agreements are not uncommon in the world of Hollywood. Like, take Marvel for example. If you say something, if you leak like a single line, a single name, game over for you. Poor Tom Holland. So in Kitty Kelly's tell-all book about Oprah, the author mentioned the confidentiality agreements that anybody who was going to appear on Oprah's show or work on her show were made to sign. So we're talking like, let's say Tom Cruise is on the show. He's going to sign one. If you make Tom Cruise a muffin and you're like within the vicinity of the show, you've got to sign one. So think about all the people over the years that have had to sign this. We're talking like over 500 people. So one former employee, Elizabeth Cody, tried to write a book about her time working for Oprah, but she was stopped by the courts, still being tied to the agreement she signed. So the NDAs were not just meant to be a way to keep, the show secrets safe, but all of Oprah's personal secrets. So according to Elizabeth, if you were anywhere in Oprah's life, you had to sign one of those. And Oprah was like, hey, I feel kind of, restrained after signing the paperwork. She's not the only one. In 2010, Unicus Performance Training filed a lawsuit against Oprah and her company Harpo, claiming they never got paid for a workout program they were developing. UPT said Harpo fired them for violating the terms of their confidentiality agreement, after UPT sent out a mass email promoting their upcoming appearance on Oprah's radio show. Well, turns out, according to the confidentiality agreement, UPT wasn't allowed to use Harpo's name, Oprah.com's name, or Oprah's name for any advertising or promotional purposes. Unless, of course, they wanted to get the axe, even though they were literally just promoting their appearance on her show. In August of 2023, a series of wildfires devastated the Hawaiian island of Maui. Good old Oprah Winfrey teamed up with fellow Hollywood heavyweight Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to launch the People's Fund of Maui for residents with an initial donation of $10 million. The fiery disaster caused about 100 lives to be lost and $5.5 billion worth of damage. Around 12,000 people were displaced. Now, Oprah, who owns property on 1,000 acres of land in Maui, and The Rock, whose family lineage comes from the neighboring South Pacific Samoan Islands, have faced a lot of criticism over the last year. So their initial statement was they'd been meeting with community leaders for a couple of weeks, they were trying to figure out what to do, and they mentioned this in August of 2023. The Rock added, in this time of need, you want to take care of the greatest need of the people, and that's giving them money. It's going to take a little time to rebuild, it'll get a little worse before it gets a bit better, but we're here doing what we can do. So, Oprah's recent appearance at the Democratic National Convention on August 21st kind of reignited questions about how the money allotted for the Hawaiian people was being dispersed. There was an account on Twitter that went viral on August 28th, claiming that Oprah donated $150 million to the Kamala Harris campaign. And while Oprah did endorse Kamala for president, folks were like, hey, so where's all this money going? Oprah Winfrey paid a fortune to Apple TV Plus chiefs to buy back the rights to a documentary about her life. Apple announced with great fanfare in 2021 that Oscar-winning filmmaker Kevin McDonald would be directing the documentary about the talk show host turned media mogul. However, sources say that McDonald, who teamed up with Winfrey's longtime producer Lisa Esprimer on the project, had clashed with the billionaire after he finished the film, and it's been on hold ever since. Kevin made the film, but Oprah didn't like it and he refused to change it, and Oprah has paid back her fee to Apple, at least according to a well-placed Hollywood source. While industry sources speculate Oprah would have to pay millions to get the rights to the documentary back, a source in the know denies that it was 7 figures. But here's the thing. Oprah's documentary is not the first high-profile release to be put on ice. Netflix's years in the making Prince documentary is being held hostage due to objections from the 7-time Grammy winner's estate. Looks like documentary making isn't exactly profitable these days. Oprah's been rightfully called out for using weight loss medication, despite being a longtime ambassador for Weight Watchers. The famous public figure has confirmed she uses an unnamed substance to help control her weight. This was in a revealing chat, and she said her new slim figure is thanks to the medication and a healthier lifestyle overall. She says, "I now use it as I feel I need it, as a tool to manage not yo-yoing." She added that the fact that there's a medically approved prescription for managing weight and staying healthier in my lifetime feels like a relief, like redemption, like a gift, not something to hide behind and once again be ridiculed for. In a conversation with People magazine, she concluded that she's absolutely done with the shaming from other people and particularly herself. But here's the thing, a lot of folks and a lot of fans feel like the billionaire philanthropist is being hypocritical. Once again, given she is a proud spokesperson for Weight Watchers. She's worked at that company since 2017. One social media user wrote, "What I don't like about Oprah is she is clearly off doing Ozempic, but yet she's still pushing Weight Watchers." And another was like, "Done with shaming but okay with lying." And a lot of folks called her out, and rightfully so, for letting them believe she did it the old-fashioned way. And they're like, "Why'd you lie?" Well, I can tell you why. The legend of Oprah Winfrey as an extremely poor girl growing up without a father to a too-young mother who, as Oprah claimed, carried with shame during pregnancy and then neglected her, spread when Oprah began giving interviews in Chicago. She said, "Oh, how they harmed me. I wanted to be white because I never saw white people being hurt." That's what she said, folks. She remembered her early years as being lonely. She didn't play with anybody except for, I think, the pigs she rode without a saddle in her grandmother's garden. She said, "The only thing I could talk to was the animals in the farmyard. I read them Bible stories. And apparently the years spent with a mother on welfare were even worse. We were so poor we couldn't afford a dog or a cat, so I had 2 cockroaches as pets. I put them in a jar and named them Melinda and Sandy." She entertained her audiences with stories about fetching water from the well, milking cows, emptying the drinking pot, all pretty much a fairy tale. She told her stories about her grandmother who swung a switch, her grandfather who was mean with a stick, the people who raised her for the earliest years of her life. She said, "Oh, how they harmed me." And she mentioned like her grandmother would harm her all the time. It's an integral part of Southern tradition, the way folks raise people. You spill something, game over. You tell a story, game over. She said, "Oh, it could happen all day. Nobody would ever get tired." But here's the thing. Not everybody in Oprah's family agrees with this desperate upbringing. Her mother, Vernita Lee, when asked about her daughter's habits of self-dramatization, said, "Oprah's a bit of a cold smoker." Now, if you're confused there, don't worry. Oprah's sister later dispelled the myth of immense poverty. She said, well, of course we weren't rich, but Patricia said that Oprah exaggerated how bad it was for them. She guesses the viewers would love her, the audience would grow if she told these stories. Cockroaches were never her pet. She always had a dog. She had a white cat. She had an eel in a tank. She had a parakeet named Bo Peep that was, learning to speak. Where Oprah got that nonsense about growing up in filth and roaches, I have no idea, according to cousin Catherine Carr Esters. She said, "I've confronted her and asked, 'Why do you tell such lies?' And Oprah said, 'That's what people want to hear. The truth is boring.'" So on air, Oprah's portrayed as this wholesome, sweet lady, this big philanthropist. But according to her stepmother, there is an unknown side to Oprah. This was a side hidden from fans for years. According to Barbara, Oprah is one of the most controlling people you will ever meet. According to Barbara, Oprah would not allow the family to stay at her house when they tried to visit, forcing them instead to stay in hotels, paying out of pocket. Barbara also said that Oprah was quick to anger when it came to her staff, with quite a few people being fired left and right over the years. But that's not all. Despite being a billionaire, Barbara, by the way, allows Oprah to stay at her home for visits, and Oprah's not a fan. So confidentiality agreements are not uncommon in the world of Hollywood. Look, Marvel will literally have somebody take you out if even a single line leaks to the public. Well, in Kitty Kelly's tell-all book about Oprah, the author mentions the confidentiality agreements that coworkers and guest stars had to sign to be on any of her shows. So this was like everybody. We're talking like Tom Cruise to the person who made Tom's muffin. Over 500 staff members over time were forced to sign this document, if not more. One former employee, Elizabeth Cody, tried to write a book about her time working for Oprah. But then again, that NDA, because, well, you sign that agreement, game over. The NDAs were not meant to be a way to keep just show secrets safe, but any and all of Oprah's secrets as well. According to Elizabeth, the documents were signed by almost everybody in Oprah's life. So Elizabeth felt she was kind of being muzzled afterwards. And if you think this didn't extend to the guests, don't worry. In 2010, Unicus Performance Training filed a lawsuit against Oprah and her company Harpo, claiming they never got paid for a workout program they were developing, because Harpo fired them for violating the terms of their confidentiality agreement. How so? Well, UPT sent out a mass email promoting their upcoming appearance on Oprah's radio show, and according to the NDA, they weren't allowed to use Harpo's name, Oprah.com's name, or Oprah's name for advertising or promotional use. But they were just promoting their appearance on her show. They weren't saying anything like, hush hush. So Oprah has owned over 21 dogs throughout her lifetime, if we're not even counting the ones she allegedly had in her upbringing. But here's the thing, being a dog mom hasn't come without its challenges. At one point, 2 of the mogul's dogs were at odds for over a decade, leaving her frustrated as she tried to maintain peace in the house. She even created barriers to keep them from being in the same room. Thankfully, her relief came when she met Cesar Millan, the renowned dog whisperer, who transformed the household dynamic. He explained that her house was like maximum security because she had to separate the Cocker Spaniel, Sophie, and the Golden Retriever, Luke. Apparently, this was going on for 11 years. How did this happen? Well, Oprah's bond with Sophie was particularly deep. In 2011, she shared that one of her greatest teachers was Sophie. Sophie lived for 13 years and came to work with Oprah every day. She was there for every show, she was backstage at the Oscars and the Emmys. She even waited in the car if Oprah went to an appointment. She was so attached to Oprah that if Oprah even left her in a hotel room for 5 minutes, Sophie would start howling. She had separation anxiety, and it was really bad. There were so many times that Oprah thought she was going to get kicked out of hotels. Oprah has long been claimed to be a great charitable woman, and recently she's been, an outspoken advocate for the island of Maui. But here's the thing, when everything happened last year, she started a fund. She didn't really donate a lot of money. She was asking for you to give her your money to help everybody else. And a lot of folks were like, hey, why aren't people speaking up about this? Why aren't we calling Oprah out for being a phony? Folks were like, well, she's only really doing this because that's where her vacation home is. She doesn't actually care. And a lot of folks found that really shallow and really awful.
Oprah has been in the limelight for all the wrong reasons lately, so let's jump into why people don't like the star anymore. Starting off, she uses Ozempic. Now, Oprah is known for being the face of Weight Watchers. She'd promote it all the time and maintain that if you followed the program, you would get results like her. Well, it seems like she got a little help from the magic weight loss drug, Ozempic. She's finally admitting to using weight loss drugs and said, in taking weight loss medication, I'm not constantly thinking about what the next meal is gonna be. She uses it in combination with hiking 3 to 5 miles a day, running, weight resistance training, and eating a healthy diet. This is what I got for the first time after I took the medication. All these years, I thought all of the people who never had to diet were just using their willpower, or they were for some reason stronger than me, Oprah said. And now I realize y'all weren't even thinking about the food. It's not that you had the willpower, you were obsessing over it. Yikes. So it seems like she was just selling lies to people who just wanted to feel better about their bodies. Up next is the Maui Fund. Dwayne Johnson and Oprah Winfrey launched the People's Fund of Maui, a fund intended to put money directly into the hands of adults displaced by the deadly wildfires that had ripped through Hawaii in August 2023. Now, according to their Instagram post, every adult resident who was displaced by the fires was eligible to receive $1,200 each month from the fund. Now, the pair noted that they had kicked off the campaign with $10 million in donations and asked others to help by contributing further. After announcing the fund, the pair drew criticism from some people on social media who questioned why they were not contributing more of their personal wealth. One person on TikTok called their video tone deaf. Some commenters questioned why the pair, as wealthy celebrities, were asking others to give instead of donating more themselves. We can't afford it, but you can, one person commented on their video on TikTok. You guys make more in a day than I'll make in my lifetime, another person wrote. Now, others questioned why the appeal for donations was being directed to the general public rather than their fellow stars with more financial means. This is disgusting, ask other celebrities, not people who are living paycheck to paycheck, another person said. Moving on to being exploitative. Critics have accused Oprah of sensationalism and exploitation in her talk show's early years. For example, there was an incredibly uncomfortable Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen interview that makes us cringe today. In 2004, Mary-Kate and Ashley were guests on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and at the time the interview took place, the twins were only 17 years old, and Mary-Kate had been hounded by the press about her weight, with intense media speculation that the star was suffering from an eating disorder. Oprah Oprah says, "I know there's been a rumor that has recently surfaced that's really upset you," and Mary-Kate and Ashley were both clearly taken aback by the question, and a tense moment of silence followed, by Oprah saying, "You know, the one about eating." Now Mary-Kate was so thrown off by the line of questioning that she looked almost on the verge of tears, and Ashley jumped in to rescue her. "Yeah, you know, people are going to write what they're gonna write," they say. After some awkward back and forth, Oprah asked the Olsen twins what dress size they are, and they reacted uncomfortable by saying, "I don't know." Now it was obvious that the questions about their bodies were uncomfortable, but Oprah still pushed. When they said they weren't sure, Oprah hit back sarcastically saying, "Oh, you're not sure? That's interesting." Now later the same year that the Oprah interview aired, Mary-Kate checked into a rehabilitation facility to seek treatment for a food-related health disorder, and Oprah should be ashamed of asking all of that. Then there's promoting pseudoscience. In 2007, Oprah brought Jenny McCarthy, the Playboy model and actress, onto her show to talk about autism. Jenny's young son, Evan, had suffered a series of seizures at 2.5 years old and was later diagnosed with autism. Now, Jenny was adamant that the MMR vaccination Evan received as a baby caused his autism. Oprah gave her story a platform and unwittingly started the panic we know today. Now, during the interview, Oprah never challenged Jenny's views either. Not to mention, she promoted the self-help book and film The Secret, which promotes the law of attraction, and many people accused her of promoting pseudoscience here as well. Now let's talk about the Letterman feud. Both Oprah and David Letterman effectively banned each other from their shows for 2 decades after a mysterious feud. Oprah had her talk show, The Oprah Winfrey Show, and Letterman had his late-night show, The Late Show with David Letterman. Now the feud started back in the 80s when Oprah made an appearance on The Late Show and felt that it was an uncomfortable experience. Now this made her refuse to be a guest on the show again. In response, Letterman began cracking jokes about Oprah and how much she hated him. Now this might have contributed to exaggerated rumors about her feelings towards him, but in any case, regardless of how much truth there were in these rumors, she did not speak to him for 16 years. Since then though, the two have made up a couple of times, but they've buried the hatchet and appeared on each other's shows. Now we have her dark upbringing. Oprah was born in Mississippi to a single teenage mother and grew up in extreme poverty. During her childhood, the cost of raising Oprah became too much for her mother to handle, so she was sent to live with her biological father. Since then, Oprah has come forward talking about how she's been mistreated and taken advantage of by her cousin, uncle, and a family friend. Now at 13, after suffering for years, she ran away from home, and at 14, she became pregnant. She gave birth to a son, but he was premature and died only a few weeks later, and she was able to overcome all of this, but man, she had it rough. On to her promoting a fake book. Oprah has a book club, and she added James Frey's book A Million Little Pieces to the reading list. Now when James was promoting his books on talk shows or other media outlets, it was referred to as a memoir. But large parts of the stories were later found out to be exaggerated or fabricated, sparking a media controversy. Now this was discovered after investigation was conducted by the Smoking Gun. They determined that James had actually fictionalized some of the story, and controversy arose after Oprah initially defended the book, but she later confronted James on her show. Now there's her medical ties. I think Seth MacFarlane said it best in 2020 when he said, "Oprah has done some wonderfully altruistic things with her career, but the use of her platform to amplify the voices of dubious characters rather than legitimate scientists has been a disservice," he wrote in a now deleted tweet. I hope she will lend her own powerful voice to correct it. Now the post included an LA Times article link that discussed medical misinformation from Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz, who Oprah supports. The exception to that is the elevation of these purveyors of pseudoscience. People like Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, all the way back to Jenny McCarthy and the movement, he continued. And it's a strange dichotomy that I think a lot of people, particularly right now, are having trouble reconciling. You know this person has done all of this positive work for the world, and yet somehow has gotten caught up in this web of junk science on many occasions. Next up, we have being rude to guests. Now throughout her career, Oprah has been called out for not being as sensitive as she perhaps could have been. An interview she did with Dolly Parton in 2003 has resurfaced, with people questioning the star and her interview tactics. Some people have questions about what Oprah was asking Dolly, how she was asking, and what exactly her goal was by probing for personal information. Now in the first video, Oprah asked Dolly how she's able to look so good for her age, and Dolly gives her a funny answer. Now Oprah presses hard harder though, noting that Dolly has been open about having cosmetic work done. But Dolly rolls with the punches and admits to it. Now Dolly even says that she'll probably continue going under the knife, and some people are pointing out that Oprah looks disappointed that Dolly flipped it in her favor. Now a second clip from that same interview popped up as well, and Oprah dives right into a heavy subject, saying she heard Dolly fell into a huge depression at age 40. Now she doesn't really approach the topic with any sensitivity, and that's rubbed people the wrong way. And lastly, we have the scandal in South Africa. When the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls opened in Johannesburg in 2007, Nelson Mandela, Tina Turner, Sidney Poitier, Spike Lee, and Oprah herself attended the ribbon-cutting ceremony celebrating the landmark boarding school, founded with $40 million of Oprah's money. But less than a year later, 6 of the 152 students who had been personally selected by Oprah to attend the institution came forward to accuse dorm matron Virginia Tiny McGowan of mistreating them and taking advantage of them. "It has shaken me to my core," Oprah said, of returning to South Africa with a team of private detectives to investigate the allegations and personally speak with the girls. "This has been one of the most devastating, if not the most devastating, experiences in my life. It seems like she and the organization did not look into who they were hiring and how the operation was running, as this all could have been avoided."
Oprah, a humanitarian, a talk show host, author, a business mogul, all rolled into one. But the question isn't, how can you not love her? More so, why don't some? As we look through 10 celebs who have made a case against the queen of daytime TV. So, for example, Seth MacFarlane, he actually addressed Winfrey's promotion of Pseudoscience. Folks think of Seth MacFarlane and they think Family Guy. It's hard not to when he not only created it, but voices multiple characters of the hit show. But while many assume Seth wouldn't be the most learned or politically active of people based off of, well, everything about his hit TV series, you'd be wrong. Amid the pandemic in 2020, MacFarlane had a few words for Winfrey, and they weren't silly ones. To quote him, "Oprah has done some wonderfully altruistic things with her career, but the use of her platform to amplify the voices of dubious characters rather than legitimate scientists has been a disservice," MacFarlane wrote in a now deleted tweet. "I hope she will lend her own powerful voice to correct it." The post included an LA Times article link that discussed medical misinformation from Dr. Phil McGraw and Dr. Mehmet Oz. MacFarlane said Winfrey has mostly, quote, "used her platform for good" during a subsequent interview with Vice, but the exception is the elevation of these purveyors of pseudoscience. People like Dr. Phil, Dr. Oz, all the way back to Jenny McCarthy and the anti-vax movement, he continued, and it's a strange dichotomy that I think a lot of people, particularly right now, are having trouble reconciling. You know, this person who's done all this positive work for the world, and yet somehow they've still gotten caught up in this web of junk science on many occasions. So it's a tough thing to balance, he concluded, and expressed that people should be forming their own opinions and not be so quick to accept what's shown on Oprah's show. Meanwhile, an Oscar-obtaining obsessed Oprah had a mean streak against the actress and comedian Monique, who has never shied away from saying it. Monique is an SA survivor and she won an Oscar in 2010, so you know that makes her Oprah's arch nemesis if you know anything about Oprah. And wouldn't you know it, it's the same year that Oprah chose to invite her onto the show and surprise her with her whole family coming on stage during the interview, including the brother who had SA'd her. So Oprah allowed Monique's parents and her brother to then berate and gaslight her on national TV, and in the interview, Oprah also acknowledged that she was aware of the beef between Monique and her mother at the time she did this. Monique confronted Oprah about going behind her back and exploiting her trauma for views, clicks, and attention, and Oprah said she would check into that, but never called Monique back. Monique then confronted Oprah the next time they saw each other in person at a celebrity event, and Oprah issued a half-assed apology under, you know, peer perspective. Within a month though, she's gotten Tyler Perry and Lee Daniels to help her engage in a smear campaign which labeled Monique as difficult to work with, and other meager rumors, all because she was not okay with Oprah exploiting her trauma in a way she didn't approve of. Monique's career suffered as a result, and when asked about the events that transpired, a very defeated Monique said in 2015 sarcastically that, "I wasn't blackballed, I was whiteballed. Thank you Miss Winfrey, thank you Mr. Perry, and thank you Mr. Daniels." Ludacris was given the third degree on his Oprah visit once, appearing on the show to promote Crash 2004. He claimed she ambushed him with criticism about his hip-hop lyrics, instead of talking about the critically acclaimed movie he was there to plug. And the interview was even edited in Winfrey's favor. She edited out a lot of my comments while keeping her own in, Luda told GQ. Of course, it's her show, but we were doing a show on racial discrimination, and she gave me a hard time as a rapper when I came on there as an actor. He added, initially I wasn't even invited on the show, and they called me the night before to tell me I could be on. So after the taping, she pulled me into the room, and we have a 5-minute conversation. What I got was that by having rappers on her show, she feels like she's empowering them, and that's a bad thing. It was like being at someone's house who doesn't really want you there. It was already uncomfortable. The Beast Mode MC added that she criticized him for using the N-word in his lyrics, and said, I don't see why people like Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle, who I'm huge fans of, it's okay for them to go on Oprah. They speak the same language as I do, but they do it through comedy, so I guess that's acceptable to her. Ice Cube had similar feelings to Luda. The NWA founder expressed he'd always felt ostracized by Winfrey intentionally because he was never invited on her show, despite many of his cinematic co-stars always being invited to chat with her on air. Sometimes entire main casts of productions Ice Cube was part of were brought onto Oprah's shows, with Ice always being told he was not on the invite list. To quote him, I've been involved in 3 major projects pitched to her, but I've never been asked to participate, the NWA founding member told FHM in July of 2006. For Barbershop 2002, she had Cedric the Entertainer and Eve on, but I wasn't invited. Maybe she's got a problem with hip-hop. Ice also added a pretty savage point that she's had damn R-wordists and child creepers and lying authors on her show. And if I'm not a rags to riches story for her, who is? Back to her Oscar obsession, you'll notice Oprah snubbed 2 celebrity winners, so this is a double trouble segment. First, in author Katie Kelly's unauthorized Oprah, a biography, Kelly claims that Whoopi Goldberg and Winfrey got testy after Goldberg was nominated for an Oscar in her role in The Color Purple 1985, but Oprah wasn't. The book notes that following Goldberg's honor, the comedian never appeared on Winfrey's show again and was noticeably shunned from Winfrey's 2006 Legends Ball. It wasn't until Winfrey invited the entire cast of The Color Purple onto her show that she and Goldberg reconnected, and they addressed the perceived bad blood between them. Turns out it was just a misunderstanding, according to Oprah, allegedly, because Angelica Houston had also been treated the same since Oprah's Oscar nomination and loss in 1986. The Oscar winner, Houston, explained she had never had me on her show, ever, and now she won't talk to me. The only encounter I've had with Oprah was when I was at a party for the Academy Awards at a private residence. I was talking to Clint Eastwood and she literally came between us with her back to me. So all of a sudden, I'm confronted with the back of Oprah's head. When asked why the normally classy Winfrey behaved that way towards Angelica, Houston candidly calls it how she perceives it. Well, nobody else would dislike me so much so as to literally physically come in between the person I was talking to. God knows she's made some big steps. If you're so obsessed with obtaining an Oscar, you have a temper tantrum that continues on for 38 years, 38 with someone you've never spoken to before or after, that's crazy. That's bat bleep crazy. And one family with a bone to pick is most definitely the Jacksons. Janet Jackson was reportedly livid with Winfrey after the talk show host invited the children of her late brother Michael Jackson onto her show in 2010. She thinks Oprah took advantage of Michael's children for TV ratings. Janet told her Michael would be heartsick that Oprah used the kids as pawns, a source told the National Enquirer at the time. The 2 women had a blistering blow up during a telephone call on the day that the show was taped. When Oprah made it clear that she was going ahead with the interview, Janet screamed, "Oprah, you make me sick." Janet and Michael's brother Randy Jackson was also not a fan of Winfrey. After Winfrey interviewed their parents, Joe and Katherine Jackson, in October of 2010, Randy was reportedly furious and tweeting, "I know how Oprah feels about my brother and family." According to TMZ, Randy followed these tweets up claiming that Winfrey was airing episodes about predators during Michael's 2005 trial as a deliberate airtime move. Randy also believed Winfrey wanted Michael in jail and wanted to profit off of getting him there however she could. To quote, "That was no coincidence. She is the last person on earth Michael would want around his children." Oprah's interactions with Jonathan Franzen was a warning in of itself as well, without the man ever having to say a peep about it. So the famed author began his beef with Winfrey when he dissed her legendary Oprah's Book Club in 2001 by telling Salon that her choices for it were one-dimensional and schmaltzy. Absolutely accurate on Jonathan's end, and it seems, just to stick it to him, Oprah then chose his book, The Corrections, for her book club in response. Jonathan got the message. He's put in an awkward position. Admit, as an author, his work is one-dimensional and schmaltzy because it's part of her book club he described that way, or damage his sales. Franzen's decision was a hard one, and he expressed feeling conflicted, and that I don't see this as my book, my creation. I didn't want that logo of corporate ownership over it. It wasn't the answer Oprah wanted, however, and in response, she rescinded her offer to host Franzen on her show, and then Franzen had his book sales threatened. This forced the author to backpedal on his remarks and claim that they were taken out of context, saying, I said things ended up hurting Winfrey's feelings, I feel bad because the person being hurt is actually a really good person for American writing and reading, he generically told the New York Times. It seems the subtle threats worked because Franzen got back in line and these two made peace. In 2010, Winfrey chose another one of his books, The Freedom, for her book club and hosted him on the show. Cindy Crawford was also made to low-key pimp herself out, otherwise face Oprah's wrath. Last year, supermodel Cindy Crawford, 58, spoke out about how Oprah Winfrey, 68, made her feel like chattel or a child to be seen and not heard when the TV host had her back on the show in 1986 when she was just 20 years old at the time. During the interview, Oprah asked the young model to show off her body, which Crawford now interprets as a moment where she had to prove her worth, as proven in how Oprah's heard even introducing the young model. Did she always have this body? Stand up for just a moment. Now this is what I call a body. Reflecting on how she felt in that moment, Cindy admitted, when you look at it through today's eyes, Oprah's like, stand up and show me your body, show us why you're worthy of being here. The mom of two continued, in the moment I didn't recognize it, and watching it back I was like, oh my gosh, that is so not okay really, especially from Oprah. Many of Hollywood's elite fully support Winfrey, even when she behaved like this since the 80s, but Scream star and Me Too activist Rose McGowan isn't one of them. McGowan tweeted in 2014 a photo of Winfrey kissing the cheek of a certain disgraced producer and director that was taken down by the Me Too movement. You know the one. He and Oprah had been very close and had numerous business ventures together, which probably inspired Rose to write this following message. I am glad more is seeing the ugly truth of @Oprah. I wish she were real, but she isn't. From being pals with director's name to abandoning and destroying Russell Simmons' victims, she's about supporting a sick power structure for personal gain. She is as fake as they come. #Lizard. McGowan captioned the tweeted image. Winfrey previously addressed the controversy, saying she didn't know about the director's alleged actions with women, but McGowan's one of those who've been outspoken against the producer and pointing fingers at his friends, such as Oprah. Which leads us to our last finger pointer, Seal. I know, right? Kinda like an odd guy to top it off with, but the dude really went in on her. See, after the Me Too stuff came out and just days after the Golden Globes in January 2018, the singer posted a meme on Instagram, one consisting of several photos of Winfrey cozying up with the aforementioned evil Me Too director, including one where it appears like Winfrey's pushing singer Rita Ora towards the disgraced movie mogul. Seal captioned the images in a seeming response to Oprah's insistence she knew nothing of the disgraced actor's doings. Oh, I forgot, that's right. You'd heard the rumors, but you had no idea he was actually serially violating young starry-eyed actresses, who in turn had no idea what they were getting into. My bad. Meanwhile, the meme itself read, when you've been part of the problem for decades, but suddenly they all think you're the solution. So, viewers, is she part of the problem, or is Oprah just conveniently terrible to a bunch of people and they all dislike her for valid reasons? You decide!
Narcissists are people who suffer from a mental disorder characterized by constant self-serving behavior, selfish intentions, superiority complexes, and more. They harm those around them almost habitually, but could the world's most famous philanthropist be one as well? Up first, entitlement. One of the key indicators of narcissism is entitlement. Narcissists believe they are special, deserving of better treatment and more privileges than the standard person. What could be more emblematic of entitlement than Oprah's consistent behavior surrounding her massive media empire? There are all sorts of different events that have shown her entitlement, perhaps one of the most famous being when she attempted to worm her way into the Paris store Hermes to go clothes shopping. The fact the store was closed and preparing for a party did not seem to faze her, though perhaps it should have. This would end up exploding into controversy, which Oprah has rarely shied away from, when it can be turned to suit her needs at least. This level of entitlement is emblematic of narcissism. Up Up next is Grandiosity. Narcissists are known for their need to be grandiose. Events, meetings, arguments cannot be small and calm affairs. They need to be events where the narcissists can showcase themselves, improve their standing, or generally increase their social capital. A narcissist could never present themselves to the public without being displayed in the best possible light. This is a general aspect of many celebrities' lives, but especially so for TV hosts who make millions of dollars off of their presentations to the public. Their weekly shows of grandeur that bring in thousands or even millions of viewers. It shouldn't be too surprising that Oprah has a pretty clear attachment to grandiosity, whether this is from an intense internal drive and desire to put up a front of power, beauty, and likability, or a simple result of her living coming from the image that she can present to the world. Next is the superiority complex. Narcissists must believe themselves to be superior. It is one of the only ways to justify their continued self-serving actions. It shouldn't really come as much of a surprise that a person who has spent decades as one of the most famous and influential celebrities on earth, whose name is synonymous with unbridled generosity and wisdom, who's worth billions of dollars, would end up with some level of a superiority complex. We can see it in her treatment of several guests, as well as in her treatment of her family. She reportedly complained furiously when forced to use bedsheets and towels that weren't of a high enough thread count and quality while visiting her stepmother. Oftentimes, narcissists are least able to hide their true selves when with family, which seems to indicate Oprah is not as humble as she claims. Up next is arrogance. Oprah's arrogance is legendary. Some would even claim unrivaled. Take, for instance, the time the multi-billionaire asked the general public to help fund the Maui relief effort, while only donating $5 million. Given her net worth of well over $2 billion, this is essentially chump change to her. Even more arrogantly, she made the national tragedy, which was already receiving significant attention, into an opportunity to grab publicity, staging a large announcement and event to go along with her small donation. But perhaps the worst of it all is that Oprah used the money to buy up 870 acres of Maui, once more showing how the rich often use tragedy to snatch up land and resources, which they then use for personal gain while fronting as humanitarians. The exploitation of those in need for purposes of personal gain is one of the most consistent trends in all of history, and Oprah has certainly not shied away from doing the same. Only to then turn around and say, hey, see this massive issue that I could completely fix with a wave of my hand? How about I buy up all the valuable land from the now destitute locals, and you pay to fix everything for me, so that I can get to exploiting them faster. Next, manipulates others. Narcissists are almost required to be manipulators. It is how they function and gain what they feel they deserve to gain. The self-serving, self-aggrandizing way that narcissists live is often only accessible through continuous and severe manipulation. Guilting, gaslighting, lying, cheating, scamming, and stealing are all classic tactics and techniques which narcissists use to extract value from their prey. Oprah has often been accused of these actions, especially during her early career, when her show was little more than a televised freak show, bringing people on to be pitied or hated for views and cash. Behind the veneer of preaching living your best life, it becomes pretty clear that to Oprah that means for her, regardless of the social, emotional, or monetary consequences of those that she manipulates. Up next is gaslighting. Gaslighting, popularized by the play Gaslight, in which a husband attempts to manipulate his wife into believing she's gone insane and can't be left alone by changing things around the house and lying when she begins to get suspicious. The modern word has been used in all sorts of scenarios, but is meant to mean a situation wherein someone attempts to make you doubt your sanity or reality through constant lies and manipulation. Oprah is adept at this by keeping narratives just beneath the surface of her work. She gaslights us by contrasting her caring tone and surface level intentions with the obvious fact that she doesn't really care for the average person at all. One of Oprah's key narratives is that of self-love and body positivity, which is a vital aspect of encouraging positive self-image and is incredibly important. She markets this through her former company Weight Watchers, which alleges it can help subscribers lose weight easily. The only issue, Oprah herself is not a subscriber to that ideal and is more than willing to engage in deeply unhealthy behavior and the use of drugs to match society's expectations rather than practicing what she preaches. Next is the lack of empathy. Oprah is known as an empathetic person. She has to be for her tear-jerking shows to make sense. She brings on people to reveal a vulnerable part of themselves for millions to watch at home. How empathetic can you be when your main goal is how much money you can extract from your show? Plenty of people have a seriously invested interest in helping people who are struggling, in supporting mental health and mental health awareness. They just don't don't make millions of dollars off of publicizing and showcasing how good of a person they are. Off-screen, Oprah is another person entirely, which indicates just how much of a show her false empathy is. Instead of selflessly rebuilding Maui after the devastating fires, something she easily could have done, she bought up hundreds of acres of land on the cheap. Plus, she was responsible for the Dr. Phil show, which followed Oprah's lead of exposing deeply troubled people to mass media attention in order to siphon off as much cash as could be made. Up next is the false image projection. Narcissists obviously have to present a false image. If they showed themselves to be their true self, they would quickly be seen as the manipulating, self-centered liars that they are, and that simply would not do. Reality TV, by comparison, is almost entirely and exclusively image projection. Now, Oprah does a very good job of covering as much of this up as she can by forcing her entire crew and guests to sign incredibly restrictive non-disclosure agreements. These agreements likely include something along the lines of preventing and prohibiting any negative talk to ever be repeated. Questions to even retired staff along the lines of what was the craziest or worst or sketchiest thing to happen on the show are completely ignored in multiple Reddit AMAs and interviews. This, coupled with dozens of people alluding heavily to Oprah not being nearly so magnanimous and generous behind the screen as she pretends to be in front of it, and we get an idea of just how false an image she presents to the world. Simply put, Oprah is not interested in the emotional and mental health of those around her and who work for her, but instead the image and presentation of a self-help show, magazine, blog, and more that rakes in millions of dollars. Up next is exploitation. Exploitation, for narcissists at least, is the result of careful manipulation and gaslighting, the fruits of their harmful and self-serving labor. The exploitation of their victims gives the narcissist what they want: validation, physical pleasure, emotional control, power, money, and more. But for someone who is rich and powerful with a media empire and dozens of affiliated companies, exploitation ceases to be a personal thing and simply becomes a way of life. Don't like your contract? This is the Oprah show. Plenty of people would be willing to work for that price. You're replaceable. Don't feel comfortable exposing your most intimate fears, insecurities, and vulnerabilities to an audience of millions? Don't worry, it's Oprah. Nothing bad would ever happen to you. Don't like that your oh so generously given free car will actually cost you several thousands of dollars you may not have? Well, that part won't make it to TV anyways. And just to be sure, have everyone, everywhere sign strict and long-lasting non-disclosure agreements so no one will ever know just how badly they got shafted. The final and perhaps most key point: narcissists can do no wrong, in their own minds at least. No failure or harm or consequence is ever their fault. No success, growth, or benefit is ever anyone else's responsibility but theirs. We see this with Oprah as well, but on a scale more significant and more well concealed than almost anywhere else. Oprah is the face of her multitude of industries. Not only is it in her best interests, but also in the best interests of her shareholders for her to never do any wrong. Rampant maltreatment and harm within her youth leadership programs? A bad actor, surely nothing systemic. Toxic ideals being spread by her numerous weight-conscious exploits? A simple misinterpretation of the Queen's intention. We will likely never know the multitude of ways that Oprah has caused harm and covered it up, simply because she and her shareholders make literal dozens of millions of dollars from her squeaky clean image.
Quote, "When Oprah first had her own show, I used to really love her, but through the years I found that she'd either changed or maybe she actually hid who she actually was. The question is, which of those is true? And what are the red flags around Oprah we simply shouldn't ignore?" Such as our first segment, her hypocrisy and exploitation. So, TikTok user Nikki Is Just Me made a posting 2 years ago highlighting what she felt was the breaking point for her as a fan of Oprah's show. Oprah was interviewing a woman who had survived a plane crash with full body burns and nerve damage, and during her segment, she also chose to read a write-in letter of a stay-at-home mom who was struggling to find her place in life and express boredom at hanging out with her kids and hanging out the house, and the follow-up guilt about how she didn't know how to find any enjoyment in that. Obviously, two very different women. And Oprah made this choice intentionally, rather than follow her own repeatedly expressed opinion that, and I quote, "You can't compare your problems to others. Everyone deserves to feel like, just because I'm not dying of cancer, my problems are still valid." She pulled this melancholic housewife letter out to specifically not validate that woman or her emotional emotional displacement. She decided to send this housewife to the horrifically burnt woman's house so she could learn to appreciate what she has at home. TikTok user Nikki stated the obvious. This is disturbing on both ends for both women, because both women had incredibly valid struggles, but to take that housewife who'd been honest about an everyday struggle to a woman with an incredibly unique and difficult one just to teach her a lesson and say, oh, you don't understand how you don't have it as hard, you take things that you have at home for granted. Well, this was just wildly invalidating for both people involved, and it's hypocritical and goes against Oprah's whole mantra that she likes to insist upon. And she did this because Oprah comes from a group of talk shows that were massive in the 90s where shock value was the norm. So it's been obvious that her style of journalism seems to favor the shock value of breaking news scandals rather than actually seeking the truth. A horrible example many people remember is she wanted the scandal, drama, and headline of being the person to out the famous actor Nathan Lane as gay in the mid-90s during an interview. Luckily, Robin Williams was with him and understood what Nathan was uncomfortable about and changed the conversation with such force that it told Oprah the jig is up. This ain't the first rodeo nor the last, because Oprah seeks shock value to grab viewership and keep an audience. Both she and they are only interested in the gasp, not the context, the explanation. When Oprah's bugging for answers, it's not answers she wants, it's drama. And that's why the Meghan Markle interview was almost 2D the way that it was one-sided, or how she kept asking Dolly Parton what work she'd had done on her body repeatedly. Her show was pure exploitation of people's problems, and it also gave a platform to the equally exploitive people like Dr. Oz, king of fake science, and Dr. Phil, the king of fake psychology. And since they came up, let's talk about Oprah's bad company for the next segment. It's a well-known fact that Oprah is friends with two very bad men. First, a movie director who is the ugly face of the Me Too movement. Second, a certain criminal who has an island. You connect the dots. They aren't alone though. In 2022, her good friend Jerry Harris was sentenced to 12 years in prison for his predatory appetites, let's call it. Oprah also spoke more than once with the faith healer John of God in 2010 and 2012. She loved this guy. They weren't friends, but if we're gonna be highlighting red flags here, I'd say the number of men she surrounds herself with, takes interest in, whatever you want to call it, that commit SA crimes is worth noting. Oprah by now has carefully scrubbed cult leader John of God from her channel, but only after he was convicted of multiple SAs and was investigated for running farms in which he slayed young mothers that he also used as forced labor in gemstone mines once they'd birthed over 10 times. His global fame exploded after he appeared on Oprah's show, and it turns out many of the women that John of God SA'd were introduced to him by Oprah Winfrey's show, but Oprah has never interviewed any of his 600 victims. This, alongside the fact she'd give a platform to Michael Jackson's alleged survivors in order to deflect attention from Mr. Me Too scandal and the pre-hearings of his trial, or even dare to claim to be a supporter of the Me Too movement while turning a blind eye, or potentially a willing one, to the actual S-word people that are in Hollywood, shows a lot of negative character. And that's why our next segment is going to be called No Girls Is Girl. According to the actresses who have accused Mr. Me Too, his behavior was no secret in Hollywood. Oprah, as an insider to the businesses and working with him for years, had to have been aware of who this man was and still chose to work with him. It's even alleged that Mr. Me Too used his relationship and proximity to Oprah to lure in women. The British actress Katie Ann Noble says Oprah duped her into thinking he would help her career. To quote Noble's attorney, he wasn't acting alone. He wasn't allowed and enabled to do what he did to Katie and other women without help. But Oprah has never truly had to face any allegations. Every time they start up, if you pay attention, they end up going dead from Twitter trends within hours, or they're swept under the rug of the news outlet that posted them within hours. A good example is how even Seal said publicly Oprah knew what was happening to women in Hollywood and did nothing. Then Oprah's little minion, Chrissy Teigen, threatened Seal, and a former neighbor came out with allegations against him within 24 hours, which some people have actually pointed out feels coincidental. Overall, public consensus and the hordes of evidence point that Oprah was well aware of who Mr. Me Too was, and she ignored it, even poached for it, alongside many others to obtain selfish fame. But it's better than blacklisting, something Oprah sees happen to those who do reap her rage, and this is how Oprah treated Monique, a woman who is not only an SA survivor, but she won an Oscar in 2010. And wouldn't you know it, that's the same year Oprah chose to interview her and surprise her by inviting her whole family on stage during the interview, including the brother who SA'd her. So Oprah allowed Monique's parents and her brother to then berate and gaslight her on national TV. And in the interview, Oprah also acknowledged that yes, she was aware of the beef between Monique and her mother at the time. Monique confronted Oprah behind stage about going behind her back and exploiting her trauma for clicks and attention. Oprah said she'd check into it, never called back. Monique then confronted Oprah the next time they saw each other in person at a celebrity event, and Oprah apparently issued a half-assed apology. Within a month though, she's gotten Tyler Perry and Lee Daniels to help engage in a smear campaign which labeled Monique as difficult to work with and other meager rumors, all because she was not okay with Oprah exploiting her trauma in a way she didn't approve. As a result, Monique's career suffers, and when asked about the events that transpired, a very defeated Monique said sarcastically that I wasn't blackballed, I was whiteballed. Thank you, Miss Winfrey. Thank you, Mr. Perry. Thank you, Mr. Daniels. And if you don't stand up for yourself like Monique did and get blacklisted, you lay down and get publicly shamed like poor Toni Braxton. Invited onto the show in 1998, Toni Braxton was a superstar and a 5-time Grammy winner, but due to financial mismanagement and being taken advantage of, she was on the brink of bankruptcy at the time. Oprah was insanely rude and out of pocket to Toni, who was no doubt going through a very difficult time in her life. She told her disparagingly she was to blame for all her financial troubles because she overspent and overconsumed. However, Toni was very publicly known to have been taken advantage of by her record label, as they made $170 million off of her album sales, where she only got 35 cents per album unit sold. Braxton then had to go on tour to promote the album, but she couldn't find a sponsor, so she has to take out a loan to finance the tour herself. Therefore, she makes petty cash from her album sales because of the terms of her record contract that literally ripped her off, and she paid a high-interest loan to fund her tour, which she went on to promote her album so the record company could make millions while she made peanuts. Like we talked about earlier, Oprah cares about the gasp, not the actual context, so she used the interview instead to tell the world how Toni was used to degrade the woman, act condescending, and call her broke multiple times. Sketchy Charity is our next segment, and it's about how Oprah opened a school in South Africa, the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls, located out of Johannesburg, a school marred with allegations and some serious criminal charges. So Oprah spent over $40 million on the school, but it only provides education to 152 students. Calculations that don't make sense if you factor in the building costs, providing food, providing uniform, and textbooks. There's insane lumps of money missing from her bill. And she's not given a penny to fund any inner city and underprivileged kids' education in the USA. So many people have questioned Oprah's motives to spend a fortune on a super luxurious school in Africa, where no news outlets or people in general can have eyes on it, and believe in fact it may function as some sort of cover for something similar to like the aforementioned Billionaire Island or something worse. The dorm matron, who was cleared on all charges thus far, and the headmistress, who threatened Oprah with a defamation lawsuit and they settled out of court, are, according to many people, only scapegoats. Leaving Neverland is a complete mess of a documentary and situation that goes a little like this. Oprah funded Leaving Neverland, a documentary about Michael Jackson, and interviewed 2 purgers and profiteers, Robson and Safechuck, who accused Michael Jackson of misconduct in their attempt to secure a big payday. And for Oprah to deflect the attention, as prior mentioned, off of Mr. Me Too's scandal and the pre-hearings. So Rob and Safechuck are both determined to be purgers by Judge Beckloff, who dismisses their lawsuits and even reprimanded Robson for lying under oath. So Oprah genuinely used Michael Jackson, who, whether he's innocent or guilty, was completely vindicated and cleared on all counts, and he's also been dead for like 10 years, to cover for her friends' shenanigans. Another piece of Neverland puzzle is a man named Ron Newt, who is going to give a tell-all interview about how he was offered $200K by a mystery person to lie about Michael Jackson causing harm to his son, but he declined. Ron Newt visited Havenhurst in the 80s, and he never accused Michael Jackson of anything. Wouldn't you know it, he died mysteriously only days after Leaving Neverland premiered on HBO, which happened to be only a few days before he was supposed to reveal who bribed him to make the accusations against Michael Jackson. Leaving Neverland premiered March 3rd of 2019. Ron Newt was found dead on March 11, 2019. No cause of death, just died. Many people believe that maybe it was Oprah who he was going to expose had he not died mysteriously. I'm no conspiracy theorist, but suddenly dying right before you're planning on exposing people is a mighty coincidence. What ain't no coincidence is Oprah's "it's all about me" complex. Quote, "My mom has always said Oprah loves Oprah." And Amy from TikTok and her mom are right. Oprah is self-serving and out of touch at this point with everyday people. First, she pioneers trash TV as a TV hostess. Once she makes her billions, all of a sudden she's found a conscience and she is a serious journalist. She would lecture us to not be materialistic and find inner peace, yet promotes luxury products on her show and showcases self-absorbed celebrities. And then you have a periodic list of things she loves, Oprah's love list. All super expensive, beyond the reach of the average person. So much for not being materialistic. And speaking of materials, she makes this huge show of helping Katrina victims by rebuilding their homes, taking tons of credit for it. Then we find out, oop, no, it's actually some local contractors who build the houses. Furnishings came from Target, appliances came from an appliance company that donated donated them. Oprah didn't have anything to do with it except putting her name on it, with zero funds coming from her pocket. But don't worry, she implored her viewers to donate to the victims. And lastly, the cover of O magazine, month to month, Oprah and Oprah alone poses for the camera to cover her very own magazine. Her network is Oprah Winfrey Network, and it only plays Oprah. Talk about self-absorbed and narcissistic. I'm not claiming she's never donated to charity or done any charity work, but in proportion to how much she talks about being charitable, her donations are not significant. Besides, most celebrities establish charity foundations to reduce tax liability. She's worth what, $3-4 billion? She goes on and on about empowering women. Why doesn't she try empowering some of the 15,000 homeless women in downtown LA where she lives? All right, and probably because of our last segment, which is B. Winfrey's take, aka what Barbara Winfrey, Oprah's former stepmother, said about Oprah. Oprah talked about Barbara before, specifically that it was she who imposed a 3-year intercourse ban on Vernon, Oprah's father, after obtaining that video of him having intercourse with a questionable person in his Nashville barbershop a few years before she told the story. In 1995, Vernon, however, was also accused of essaying a woman, and what was Oprah's response when he was charged? She called it money-motivated extortion and assumed the woman who pressed charges was trying to come after her wealth specifically. Insane. Barbara thought so too. She went ahead and divorced Vernon, only to learn the dark side of her stepdaughter. Oprah's controlling ways were put on full display when B. Winfrey refused to sign a confidentiality agreement in exchange for keeping her home and car as part of the divorce settlement. To quote, her brand is that she's nice, caring, generous, giving person, but that's not how she is. She's controlling. It's all about control. She has confidentiality agreements with pretty much everybody in her life. She has them sign their life away, and she has them in her pocket. He also said his daughter told him that she would cut off his trust money if he did not divorce me. The woman has set out to ruin me, destroy me, to take this house away is petty. It's been my home for 14 years. Oprah's a billionaire 3 times over. Her health lives better than this. She said publicly she offered to sell the house and give me the proceeds, but that's a lie. She never said that. Oprah owns property all over the world, so there's no reason to sell this house other than to spite me. It's a personal vendetta. If she was a more decent person, she would realize that what her dad did was very wrong, instead of plotting against me and pushing me out of the scene. Some people can have money and they can be mentally rich, secure in what they have, I guess, but others, how can I put it? Some people you can't take the ghetto out of, she admitted. That's Oprah. It's who she is and it's where she's from. She had money. Everybody was going to know it and see it, but she had to be in control.
Oprah seems like a happy and kind person, but here are the top 10 red flags about her that we should not be ignoring. First off, we have when Seal exposed her on Instagram. Just days after the Golden Globes in 2018, the singer Seal posted a meme on Instagram consisting of several photos of Oprah, including a photo in which it appears Winfrey is pushing singer Rita Ora toward the disgraced movie mogul and alleged harasser. Seal captioned the images, quote, "Oh, I forgot, that's right. You've heard the rumors, but you had no idea he was actually serially violating young actresses who in turn had no idea what they were getting into. My bad." The meme itself read, quote, "When you have been part of the problem for decades, but suddenly they all think you're the solution." When Ludacris appeared on Oprah to promote his movie Crash, he claimed she ambushed him with criticism about hip-hop lyrics instead of talking about the critically acclaimed movie that he was there to plug. In addition, he said the interview was edited in Oprah's favor. "She edited out a lot of my comments while keeping her own in," Ludacris told GQ. "Of course it's her show, but we were doing a show on racial discrimination, and she gave me a hard time as a rapper when I came on there as an actor." He added, quote, "Initially I wasn't even invited on the show, and they called the night before to tell me I could be on. So after the taping, she pulled me into a room and we had a 5-minute conversation. What I got was that by having rappers on her show, she feels like she's empowering them. It was like being at somebody's house who doesn't really want you there. It was so uncomfortable." He added that she criticized him for using the N-word in his lyrics. "I don't see why people like Chris Rock or Dave Chappelle, who I am huge fans of," he says, "it's okay for them to go on Oprah. They speak the same language as I do, but they do it through comedy, so I guess that's acceptable." Next, let's discuss Oprah shutting down an entire food industry. During the height of the mad cow scare in 1996, Oprah invited Howard Lyman, a cattle rancher turned vegetarian, onto her show to discuss controversial practices within the beef industry, including a process now banned in the US called rendering, which involves turning cow organs into feed for other cattle. While Oprah challenged some of his more outlandish statements, which included the suggestion that the disease could become as infectious as the AIDS epidemic, she exclaimed at one point that his revelations had, quote, stopped me cold from eating another hamburger. Beef prices plunged for nearly 2 weeks after the episode aired, eventually reaching a 10-year low. In response, a group of angry cattle ranchers in Texas filed a $10 million lawsuit, claiming she defamed the entire industry. Our next story is insane and also a bit sad. It's not as if Oprah created a theory behind the best-selling self-help book The Secret, written by New Age guru Rhonda Byrne, but by promoting it on 2 episodes of her show, she may have given it a dangerous level of credence. The book's central premise, the law of attraction, is that positive thinking is the route to obtaining anything you want in life, while negative thoughts will cause bad events to occur. But when Oprah's producers received a letter from viewer Kim Tinkham, who had received a breast cancer diagnosis shortly after the shows aired, they were alarmed by how far she had taken the inspiration. Kim Tinkham wrote that she had decided to forego chemotherapy, instead choosing to follow the book's advice, literally. Oprah brought her onto the show to set her straight and urged her to not, quote, ignore all the advantages of medical science. Kim Tinkham, who went on to follow another New Age regime, unfortunately died in December 2010. Ultimately, Oprah stood by her position that the law of attraction can affect positive change. Oprah is also known for promoting really bad medical advice on her old TV show, Oprah MD. Not exactly, but her 7 million daily viewers were fed a steady diet of health tips. While well-known guests like Dr. Oz offer sound advice on eating and fitness, the program at times is a forum for some really questionable medical claims. As Newsweek noted in a cover story, actress Jenny McCarthy has used Oprah's show to link some well-respected childhood vaccines to autism, a claim that most experts definitely dismiss. With hardly a challenge from the host, Suzanne Summers and Robin McGraw, wife of Dr. Phil McGraw, have used the show's reach to endorse hormone therapy for women, though it can also boost serious risks of heart attacks and strokes. While Oprah is careful to acknowledge both sides in medical debates, many experts fear that nuance is lost amid the adoring reception given to the latest miracle cure. Some observers also question Oprah's enthusiasm for novel cosmetic surgery procedures, which occasionally lead to really unwelcome complications. As Dr. V. Young, a plastic surgeon, told the New York Times, if she told viewers that arsenic would make them beautiful, we'd be getting hundreds of calls from people asking us for arsenic. Oprah's also been known to promote really toxic weight loss advice. In 1988, just 2 years after the Oprah Winfrey Show was launched, the TV legend revealed during an episode of her show that she had lost a whopping 67 pounds in 4 months, thanks to an all-liquid diet. She even wheeled on stage a wagon with 67 pounds of fat on it to visually show her audience how much weight she actually lost. In reality, she later revealed that she had, quote, starved herself and messed up her metabolism, which ultimately resulted in her gaining it all back and then some pretty quickly. An anonymous guest wrote an entire article on how being featured in an episode of The Oprah Show was, quote, the worst day of her life. In the article, she writes, being on Oprah changed my perception of what I was doing for a living forever and marked the beginning of my long love affair with social media instead of regular television. The story goes like this. By 2002, she says, I had run my boutique PR firm for 6 years, helping musicians tell their stories, and I was very satisfied doing it. One fateful day, my telephone rang. It was a call from a producer at The Oprah Show. She had read an article about my mom in a magazine where my mom had mentioned her entrepreneurial daughter. Within a week, an Oprah film crew had descended. The show combined live studio and taped interviews with Gloria Steinem, among many famous guests. On the air date, Oprah opened the show by promising, quote, a revealing look at what younger women think about older women. We were told the theme of the show would be generational differences in the workplace, but what it really ended up being was the airing of my painful family struggle in front of 40 million viewers. It turned out the show was really about pitting daughters from my generation against their moms, ambitious women who were at the front lines in the battle for women's equality. There was tremendous pain for all the daughters featured. I'm not writing this to air dirty laundry, she says. I'm writing it to make a point about traditional media. Oprah's philanthropic efforts and her general spirit of giving are really well documented, but even that caught a bit of static last September when she and The Rock, with their combined net worth of well over $3 billion, asked the viewers to contribute to the Maui wildfires while only allegedly kicking in $10 million of their own money. The comment section in their request video turned into such a dumpster fire of criticism that the comments were turned off. In Apple TV's new docuseries, The Supermodels, Cindy Crawford is re-evaluating key moments from her career, including one questionable Oprah show moment from 1986 that she now claims was, quote, so not okay. Throughout the episode in question, Crawford sat alongside her then representative, John Casablancas. Winfrey asked Cindy to stand up to give the audience a better look at her figure. Now this is what I call a body, exclaimed Oprah. The host then pitched several questions to Casablancas, her representative, who spoke on Crawford's behalf as if she wasn't even there. She's getting a sense, and I'm saying it now in this program, if she wants to, she can be #1 in the business, he said. Looking back on her experience, the fashion icon, who is one of the 4 models featured in the Apple TV series, admitted that the appearance made her feel less than. I was like a child, be seen and not heard, said Crawford in the series. When you look at it through today's eyes, Oprah's like, stand up and show me your body, show us why you're worthy of being here. In the moment, I didn't recognize it, and watching it back, I was like, oh my gosh, that was so not okay. Really, especially coming from Oprah. Despite her humble beginnings, a video began circulating online in 2022 that showed Oprah seemingly left stunned after a fan told her they couldn't afford a $100 jewelry box. The clip was shared to TikTok, and it shows someone approaching Oprah and asking for a holiday gift idea for their mom, who is, quote, not doing well. A wonderful thing is that jewelry box that I had on favorite things, she said, after some thought. A beautiful red jewelry box. That's too expensive for me, the person holding the camera interjects. No, it's not, Oprah argues, shaking her head. It's really not. It's like $100 and something. A little lower in my price budget, the person says. At this point, Oprah seemingly cannot hide her shock as she responds, lower than $100, with an amused smile on her face.
Oprah Winfrey. The lady's been in showbiz for so long that it's impossible to think she hasn't done some shady things throughout her career, right? We're about to look into the times Oprah may or may not have gotten away with some serious fibbing, so stay tuned. In an ironic twist that only the digital age could serve up, it seems even the great Oprah isn't immune to a social media slip-up. Picture this. You're scrolling through your feed when you see Oprah praising the Microsoft Surface, claiming it's her go-to gift for the holiday. Quite the endorsement, right? Well, not so fast. Eagle-eyed followers quickly spotted something amiss. The tweet was sent from an iPad, the rival tech of the Surface. Talk about being caught in the act. Not the best look when you're trying to give a shout out to a product that supposedly won your heart. Or at least that's what sponsors would like everyone to believe. It's a modern day tale of endorsements gone wrong, and a reminder that on the internet, someone's always watching. This mishap with Oprah leads us into a broader conversation about the authenticity of celebrity endorsements. In the age of social media, it peels back the curtain on the fact that sometimes endorsements are less about personal preference and more about contractual agreements. It's a stark reminder to consumers that while celebrity backing might bring a product to our attention, it doesn't always mean it's their genuine gadget of choice. Oprah has been called out for using weight loss medication, despite being a longtime ambassador for Weight Watchers. The famous talk show host confirmed she was using this medication to help her weight. In a revealing chat, she said her slim figure is thanks to the medication and a healthier lifestyle overall. She's admitted to using the weight loss med Ozempic, and no one is saying that she should be hated for doing what she wants to her body, but she should think about the unrealistic standards she has set when she was initially lying about taking meds for weight loss, while promoting Weight Watchers. Oprah has stepped into the spotlight not to host a show, but to address the recent criticisms around the People's Fund of Maui, a cause she passionately advocates for. Along with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Oprah launched this heartfelt initiative, seeding a staggering $10 million to assist those affected by Maui's devastating wildfires. The goal was straightforward: provide direct financial support to the victims. However, not everyone saw it that way. The internet erupted with heated debates, some accusing the duo of not doing enough despite their
considerable donation. Oprah's reply? She genuinely believed that their contribution was substantial, the kind that would typically receive a standing ovation at fundraising galas. But the morning after their big pledge, instead of applause, there was a digital uproar. I woke up, checked the news, and was met with a barrage of negativity, Oprah recounted on CBS Mornings. Describing the intense scrutiny she faced, Dwayne Johnson, deeply connected to the islands by heritage and childhood memories, has yet to weigh in on the controversy. And let's talk about the time Ludacris made an appearance on Oprah's show. Now, the dude was there to shine a light on his role in the movie Crash. You know, that intense drama from 2004 that snagged a bunch of awards, but things didn't go as planned. Luda opens up about how instead of focusing on the movie, he found himself in the hot seat, facing some tough questions about his hip-hop lyrics. He wasn't shy about saying the final cut of the interview seemed to lean heavily in Oprah's favor, with some of his key points on the cutting room floor. She kept her own comments while a lot of mine got axed, he shared in a GQ interview. It turns out Luda wasn't even slated to be on the show initially. They called him up last minute, and after all that, Oprah had a private chat with him expressing her views on what it means to feature rappers on her show. Ludacris compares the whole experience to an awkward visit where you feel like the host isn't thrilled to have you over. In a scorching critique, actress Rose McGowan has leveled some heavy accusations against one of television's most beloved figures. In an explosive tweet, McGowan lashed out, calling Oprah as fake as they come. She expresses a sense of vindication that the public is starting to see a side of Oprah she perceives as disingenuous. McGowan, a pivotal voice in the #MeToo movement, doesn't mince words, openly wishing the renowned talk show host's authenticity to match her public persona. The Twitter war between Rose and Oprah has made headlines, with many wondering where the root of their animosity lies. It seems that McGowan's main issue with Winfrey stems from her perceived hypocrisy in light of recent events involving an extremely controversial person. She's been vocal about holding powerful figures accountable for their actions, and in this case, she believes Winfrey is not practicing what she preaches. This raises an important question about how much we truly know about the people we idolize and put on a pedestal in our society. In her stirring speech at the Golden Globe Awards, Oprah once again demonstrated why she is considered such a powerful and motivational figure. Her successful entrepreneurial journey, her impactful philanthropy, and her natural heartfelt connect with people are truly commendable. However, there's a twist in the tale. Over time, Oprah has, through different media avenues, unintentionally promoted some questionable health practices. This very aspect had the scientific community in a bit of an uproar. On YouTube, we often talk about the influence celebrities have on public opinion, and Oprah's case is particularly fascinating. Notably boosted Dr. Oz's popularity, who, despite being a charming TV personality, has faced criticism for advocating medical advice and products lacking scientific backing. Consider the episode with the green coffee bean extract, a supposed weight loss miracle that fell flat after closer scrutiny and legal intervention. It's concerning when only a fraction of health recommendations on a show like the Dr. Oz show stand up to scientific validation. And yet, even after distancing herself slightly by canceling Oz's radio show amidst professional pushback, Oprah maintains ties with him, showcasing the complex relationship between media influence, celebrity endorsement, and evidence-based medicine. In another contentious twist in media careers, Oprah played a pivotal role in the rise of Philip, Dr. Phil McGraw, who now raises daytime TV's top earner. Portrayed as the valiant hero who saves people from the grips of addiction, Dr. Phil's approach is not without its detractors. A joint investigation by Stat and the Boston Globe cast a critical eye on the Dr. Phil show, revealing troubling allegations that in chasing ratings, the welfare of certain guests was jeopardized, facing withdrawal without proper medical aid, and episodes indicating coercive nudges towards dangerous situations just to procure meds. As intense as these revelations are, the show's spokesperson denies them all. Further probing unearthed evidence suggesting that the carrot for treatment centers to buy into Dr. Phil's virtual reality venture, a series of VR scenarios where he offers advice, is none other than the promise of publicity across his and related platforms. While Oprah Winfrey's intentions in championing alternative medicine are likely well-intentioned, her influence has unfortunately had a negative impact on scientific understanding amongst the American populace. This phenomenon, often referred to as the Oprahification of medicine, is a concern that surgical oncologist Dr. David Gorski, a contributor to the science-based medicine website, has expressed disappointment over. As pointed out by A.V. Salk of the Washington Post, should Winfrey ever decide to enter the political arena, her advocacy for unconventional medical practices could present numerous challenges that would need addressing during her campaign. With an estimated 44 million viewers per week, Oprah has a powerful platform to spread her beliefs and opinions, and while she may have good intentions with her advocacy for alternative medicine, listen, her influence has unfortunately led to a dangerous trend of misinformation and pseudoscience. Dr. Gorski points out, Winfrey's promotion of unproven or debunked treatments can have harmful consequences for those who trust her and follow her advice. In the Apple TV Plus docuseries, The Supermodels, Cindy Crawford has dropped some bombshell comments about a moment with Oprah that's got the internet seriously buzzing. So buckle up, because we're going back to 1986 when a 20-year-old Cindy graced the Oprah Winfrey Show. But here's the twist. Cindy, alongside her agent, John Casablancas, didn't just sit for a chat. She had to stand and showcase her model physique. Fast forward to the docuseries, and Cindy is calling out this moment as not cool, especially by today's standards. It's a real look-see moment as Cindy felt objectified, a stark contrast to Oprah's celebrated history of empowering women, but hey, opinions differ, and entertainment reporter Stephanie Taki offers a different angle, reminding us that supermodel status is often tied to their iconic figures. Was it just the nature of the 80s showbiz? Was it more about respecting Cindy's legendary career? Cindy's comments have sparked a debate about the treatment of models. In recent years, there has been a significant shift towards body positivity and embracing all body types in the fashion world. In an Elle magazine interview back in January 2006, which later circulated on TMZ, 50 Cent offered a critique of Oprah, suggesting that her originally targeted audience and point of view had shifted. He claimed Winfrey, once a voice resonating with black women, had progressively directed her content towards middle-aged white women to the point where he felt she represented that demographic. 50 Cent's remarks were accompanied by a symbolic gesture of naming his dog Oprah as a subtle jab. However, the rapper and talk show icon addressed their differences in an episode of Oprah's Next Chapter, where 50 Cent highlighted that he felt targeted by her critiques, which directly opposed the themes in his music. And that wraps up our eye-opening journey through the top 10 times Oprah was caught lying to everyone. If our list has astonished you or given you some food for thought, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more content that digs beyond the surface. Even the queen of all media, Oprah Winfrey, has had her share of disputes and disagreements within the glitzy world of showbiz. So grab your popcorn, sit back, and get ready for some truly eyebrow-raising revelations. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's jump right in with Rose McGowan. We're gonna discuss the controversies surrounding Hollywood's prominent figures and their relationship with talk show host Oprah Winfrey. Rose McGowan, an influential figure in the #MeToo movement and star of the Scream franchise, is distanced from this trend. McGowan brought attention to a photo from the 2014 Critics' Choice Movie Awards, which shows Winfrey kissing a disgraced producer in Hollywood. McGowan captioned her tweet with some strong words, saying, "I'm glad more are seeing the ugly truth of @Oprah. I wish she were real, but she isn't," and added that she is supporting a sick power structure for personal gain. She is as fake as they come, #Lizard. This tweet sparked a lot of debate and speculation among fans, with some defending Winfrey and others criticizing her. However, it's important to note that this is not the first time McGowan has called out Winfrey. Now, we all know how relevant Oprah has remained within the industry, so do you think she's part of the problem in Hollywood? I mean, she's pretty powerful. Let us know in the comments below. On to the next, Seth MacFarlane. MacFarlane? I don't know. In a tweet posted in 2020, MacFarlane acknowledged Winfrey's positive influence through her career as a television host and philanthropist, and praised her for using her platform to bring attention to important issues and making a positive impact in society. However, he also expressed his disappointment in Winfrey's frequent promotion of pseudoscience and conspiracy theories on her talk show. He urged Winfrey to use her influential voice to promote facts and science instead of spreading misinformation. This tweet sparked a debate among fans of both MacFarlane and Winfrey. Some supported Seth's call for accountability, while others defended Winfrey's right to her own opinions. Despite their differences in opinion, both MacFarlane and Winfrey have used their platforms to bring attention to important social issues. Even those who we admire and respect are not immune to criticism and should be held accountable for their actions. Kid Rock. Kid Rock has never been one to hide his feelings towards Oprah Winfrey. As TMZ highlighted before, Kid Rock had a public outburst about Winfrey at his own establishment, Kid Rock's Big Honky Tonk and Steakhouse in Nashville, which resulted in him being escorted out. He tweeted, "Years ago, my team tried to get me on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Her team wanted me to list 5 reasons why I loved her and her show. I flatly refused. That's the end of it." Kid Rock hasn't been shy about expressing his feelings. In 2008, he clarified his sentiments, telling The Independent, "Oprah Winfrey just just doesn't sit well with me. I don't trust her. Maybe that's because I'm not one of the 150 million women who hang on her every word. Damn. Kid Rock has made his disdain for Oprah evident on multiple occasions. In 2010, he went as far as calling her a bitch during a live performance at the CMA Awards. However, Kid Rock's animosity towards Winfrey seems to stem from more than just personal feelings. In an interview with The Guardian in 2015, Kid Rock explained his dislike for Winfrey by saying, "I don't hate Oprah, quite the opposite. I have a lot of admiration and respect for what she's been able to accomplish in her career. My issue is with the way she uses her platform to push certain agendas and manipulate public opinion." It's obvious Kid Rock believes Winfrey has too much influence over her viewers and uses it to push her own agenda. He also expressed concern over the potential for her to sway political opinions, stating, "I think that's where a lot of people get turned off by Oprah or any celebrity using their platform for political gain." Up next is Seal. Singer Seal didn't hold back his disapproval of Winfrey making his feelings known on social media. Back in 2018, the acclaimed vocalist, best known for his hit song Kiss from a Rose, leveled allegations against Winfrey, claiming she had knowledge of a disgraced producer whose name shall not be named, his actions for decades. He posted a now deleted Instagram photo of Winfrey with said producer with a scathing caption, "You'd heard the rumors, hadn't you? Yet you turned a blind eye to the truth that he was preying on unsuspecting, ambitious young actresses. Apologies for my oversight." He continued, "When you've been a part of the problem for decades, yet everyone suddenly sees you as the solution, hashtag sanctimonious Hollywood." Singer Seal's comments about Oprah Winfrey and disgraced producer sparked controversy and brought attention to the larger issue of assault and harassment in Hollywood. While some praised Seal for speaking out, others criticized him for his harsh words towards Winfrey. This incident also highlighted the complicated relationship between celebrities and their involvement in important social issues. It serves as a reminder that everyone has a responsibility to educate themselves and use their platform for good. The conversation about misconduct in the entertainment industry continues, and it is important to listen to all voices and work towards creating a safer environment for everyone. So we must ensure that our society provides equal opportunities and safe spaces for all individuals. Only then can we truly progress towards a more inclusive and just society. Up next, Ludacris. Following his role in the 2004 movie Crash, Ludacris, otherwise known as Christopher Brian Bridges, made an appearance on Winfrey's TV program. The intent was to discuss the film, but the conversation took a different turn. Ludacris told GQ, "She got many of my points, keeping hers intact. It's her show, but we were discussing racial discrimination, and I felt she was challenging me excessively as a rapper, disregarding my role as an actor for the show." He added, "At first I wasn't even invited to the show, it was only the night before when they rang me up to say I could come. After filming, Winfrey and I had a short 5-minute chat. The impression I got was that she believes by hosting rappers, she's giving them more power. It felt like being in a place where you're not welcome. It was already quite awkward." Following the controversial interview, Ludacris received backlash from both fans and critics. Many accused him of being disrespectful towards Winfrey and not understanding the purpose of her show. However, Ludacris defended himself by stating that he was simply speaking his truth and standing up for himself. The incident shed light on a larger issue within the entertainment industry, the portrayal of rappers and hip-hop artists. Many have argued that these artists are often stigmatized and pigeonholed into negative stereotypes, while their talents as actors or intellectuals are overlooked. Jason Momoa. In the aftermath of the devastating wildfires that swept through Maui in August 2023, Hollywood star Jason Momoa pointed fingers at two prominent figures, Oprah Winfrey and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Momoa charged them with, in his own words, stealing money from the poor. This controversy arose from a fundraising initiative that Winfrey and Johnson had organized with the aim of aiding the victims of these wildfires. In the months following the controversy, both Winfrey and Johnson have responded to Momoa's allegations. In an exclusive interview with Oprah magazine, Winfrey stated that she was deeply saddened by Momoa's accusations and denied any wrongdoing on her part. She explained that the fundraiser had been a collaborative effort with Johnson and that all of the proceeds went towards helping the victims of the wildfires. She also added that she had personally donated a large sum to the cause. Angelina Jolie, in an unexpected twist, it appears that two globally recognized humanitarians, Angelina and Oprah, have had some friction. When Winfrey was launching her esteemed project, the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls in South Africa, she reportedly reached out to Jolie for assistance. However, according to an insider's account shared with Star Magazine, in 2007, Jolie declined. Winfrey had anticipated Jolie's support given her love for Africa. Disappointed, Winfrey vowed never to ask for Jolie's help in her humanitarian projects in the future. The source also claimed that there might be unresolved issues between the two, stemming from Winfrey's support for Jennifer Aniston during the well-publicized split with Brad Pitt. In recent years, there have been multiple reports of tension and rivalry between Angelina and Oprah. While both women are highly influential figures in their respective fields, many wonder what has caused this apparent friction between them. David Letterman. Many assume the beef between David and Oprah started because of an awkward joke at the 1995 Academy Awards, but according to Letterman, the disagreement actually sparked well before that. In a 2010 episode of The Daily Show, he told Jon Stewart, "The feud predates the Academy Awards. She had a problem with me long before then." He narrated an encounter from a vacation they both happened to be on. Oprah was with Stedman and I was with my then girlfriend Regina. We were having lunch at the same restaurant. I jokingly told Regina, "Let's have Oprah pick up our check," and that's what happened. Letterman convinced the waiter that Winfrey would pay for their lunch. This, according to Letterman, is where the feud started. But Oprah has a different take on the feud's origin. In a 2012 interview with CBS News, she said she felt uncomfortable on his show and avoided any contact with him for 16 years, during which he continuously made jokes at her expense. They've since reconciled their differences. Joan Rivers. In her first national television debut on The Tonight Show in 1985, Oprah Winfrey faced an unexpected blow from the late Joan Rivers. As Winfrey recounts in her book, Food, Health, and Happiness, she was just getting comfortable when Rivers threw a curveball question, "So how'd you gain the weight?" Winfrey was taken aback on her big day with the word fat echoing in her mind. Winfrey explains further that Rivers from behind Johnny's large desk scolded her for letting herself gain weight. Rivers' manicured finger pointed at her, reminding her of her single status and challenging her to lose 15 pounds before her next visit. And finally, 50 Cent. In the 2006 edition of Elle magazine, rapper 50 Cent made a controversial comment about Oprah Winfrey, referring to her as an Oreo. He voiced his dissatisfaction, arguing that while Oprah started her career focusing on the perspectives of black women, she had gradually shifted her attention towards middle-aged white American women to such an extent that he believed she had become one of them. To throw further shade on Oprah, 50 Cent even named his miniature schnauzer after her. However, in 2012, they set their differences aside and had an open discussion on an episode of Oprah's Next Chapter. Visiting 50 Cent at his grandmother's house, Oprah listened as the rapper expressed his grievances about her show's apparent snub of hip-hop artists and her stance against the use of the N-word. The relationship between celebrities and media moguls like Oprah is complex and ever-changing. Some stars have used their platforms to voice their concerns or share their experiences, painting a multifaceted picture of the celebrity life and the media industry.
Number 10. Unseasoned chicken. I dislike unseasoned food more than anyone, I think. Well, probably the same amount as any other person of color. Anyway, Oprah definitely feels the same way I do, because when a guest on her show presented her with a plate of beige, sad-looking food, she took a bite and immediately asked for extra salt and pepper to be added to this dish of food, to which the guest responded, "There is no salt and no pepper." Moment of silence here for the poor bird that died just to be cooked in such a disrespectful manner. Oprah was shocked. The audience was shocked. The dead bird on the plate was shocked. Everyone was shocked. I don't know how this lady thought it would be a good idea to feed a multi-millionaire, ultra-famous, hella influential black woman a plate of unseasoned chicken. Like, girl, go get some culture. Go taste some mashed potatoes that aren't made from powder, please. Number 9. Jay Leno. In a jaw-dropping interview on Oprah, Jay Leno unleashed a ton of confessions and excuses, revealing the messy reality behind his return to The Tonight Show, in which he was accused of having a part in the network's decision to reinstate him as The Tonight Show host while canning Conan O'Brien. Admitting to telling a white lie about retiring in 2004, Leno blamed the chaos on a multitude of factors, including being sucker punched by Jimmy Kimmel while he appeared on The Leno Show. Oprah, surprisingly unsympathetic, challenged Leno on his past jabs at fellow comedians, particularly Jimmy Kimmel's big jaw remark, which led to Leno hitting back at him with dark jabs at Letterman's unfaithfulness towards his wife. Leno defended his decision to accept the role on the show as an attempt to keep his staff employed. He acknowledged the show's failure but justified taking back his old job when offered. A surprising poll result from Oprah's audience revealed overwhelming support for Conan O'Brien in the midst of the mess. Leno's attempt to deflect blame onto NBC's handling of the situation took a dark turn, and the interview left viewers questioning Leno's actions and motives, making it clear that the fallout from this Oprah appearance would definitely linger. Number 8. Cindy Crawford. This American model and actress was a guest on the Oprah show in 1986 when Crawford was just 20 years old, alongside John Casablancas, who was her rep at Elite Modeling Agency at the time. In the resurfaced clip, Oprah asks Casablancas if Crawford has always had her body, before asking her to stand as she states, "Now this is what you call a body." Well, now the supermodel had appeared on the docu-series called The Supermodels, where she reflects on this moment, and she refers words to herself as a child because she had not felt seen and not heard. Crawford admits she didn't notice it at the time, but now looking at it, Oprah does state, "Stand up and show us your body. Show us why you're worthy of being here," which made her uncomfortable as the model says this is not okay, especially from Oprah. As of now, Oprah hasn't commented on this situation, but many viewers have spoken up about this moment that was captured for television. Gig King was actually asked about this situation where she admits she hasn't seen the clip but has heard about it, stating she felt disappointed and surprised in Oprah. However, there isn't any feud or anything between Oprah and Crawford according to King. As she stated, "As far as I know, everything is good between Oprah and Cindy." What do you think about Oprah's requests to Crawford during that interview? Number 7. Elizabeth Taylor. In 1988, Elizabeth Taylor joined Oprah for an interview where she was questioned about her relationship and the myriad of dating rumors surrounding her at the time. Elizabeth didn't say much to answer these questions as she likely wanted to keep personal information private, but Oprah wanted more. She began to reply sarcastically to Elizabeth by stating, "You're so revealing, you gotta stop talking so much, Miss Taylor," which then Elizabeth clapped back with, "This is what your friends wanted, right?" Which didn't seem to impress Oprah, as she then said, "I just want to know. Tell me so we can all go home. If you tell me, I'll go home." Prior to this interview, Elizabeth had actually given Oprah a heads up and told her to avoid questions about her relationship, but it didn't really seem like Oprah followed these requests, and she even came out to say that this interview was still painful to watch for many reasons, including her bad hair. I mean, especially with the heads up before the interview started, Oprah could have and definitely should have avoided this entire incident by simply following Taylor's requests. Number 6. Lance Armstrong. Cyclist Lance Armstrong tried to clear his name when he spoke to Winfrey about using performance-enhancing drugs. The host asked him several questions, including, "Did you ever take banned substances to enhance your cycling performance?" To which Armstrong quickly answered yes, admitting his wrongdoing and stating he would spend the rest of his life apologizing to people and trying to remedy the situation. The cyclist insisted that he was not doping when he returned in 2009, but the US Anti-Doping Agency CEO said Armstrong lied again. Also, Anti-Doping Agency is kind of a crazy sentence and an even worse or better name. Despite Oprah's achievement in securing the interview, many spoke out about the flaws in the set and camera work as well as Armstrong's perceived lack of genuine remorse. Drawing comparisons to iconic TV confessions, the suggestion is made that Oprah could have taken a different approach to elicit more compelling responses from Armstrong. Many wonder if Armstrong would have agreed to the interview under a more critical stance, ultimately portraying Oprah as potentially too forgiving and going way too easy on the cyclist. Number 5. James Frey. In 2005, Oprah Winfrey's book club picked up the book from author James Frey, which was a memoir. Oprah spoke very highly of the book, giving it a glowing review, but after it was revealed that his memoir was actually comprised of mostly made-up stories, he went on Oprah's show to apologize and hopefully to clear his name. There he said, "I don't have a lot of respect for the genre," which, okay, pause, because why would you write a memoir then? It seems like you don't respect yourself at that point. He also claimed that he believed most people who wrote memoirs fabricated many of the stories within, so what he did wasn't that bad, I guess? He just got caught. I mean, like, if you're writing made-up stories, then you're just a fiction writer at that point. Time to release a dystopian series, James Frey, or wait, does he not respect that genre either? I guess he'd write fiction whether you respected it or not. Number 4. Lindsay Lohan. In the OWN docuseries featuring Lindsay Lohan titled Lindsay, Oprah Winfrey is seen urging Lohan to be truthful and cut out the nonsense in her quest for recovery. The unusual exchange raises concerns about the intertwining of Lohan's recovery process with the reality show format, seemingly unpacking her rehabilitation for public consumption and entertainment. This approach seemingly contradicts the principles of AA, which emphasizes private and anonymous recovery, and publicizing the struggle with addiction can hinder the chances of success. Many questioned Oprah's role in potentially exploiting Lohan's journey for the sake of entertainment, and noted the inherent risks of making the recovery process a public spectacle. While at the time this premise seemed to fit Lohan's dual goals of sobriety and making a comeback to the industry, many are still critical of Oprah to this day from seemingly exploiting Lindsay. Number 3. The Olsen sisters. They appeared in a 2004 interview with Oprah where they were confronted with rumors. At the time, the two sisters were 18 years old, and the rumors were regarding these girls and their eating habits. Oprah says, "I know a new rumor that's recently surfaced has really upset you, right? You know, the one about eating?" And the twins responded by saying, "Either you're too fat or you're too skinny. People are going to write what they want. We try not to read the good, the bad, and to that response it seems like they got the awkward question out of the way, right? Nope, because Oprah thought the appropriate follow-up question was, what size are you, by the way? And of course this clip resurfaced all over the internet in 2021, with many viewers feeling bad for the twins, especially because Oprah pointed that rumor out towards these young stars, which made some fans believe the twins were uncomfortable. Number 2, Sally Field. Oprah asked this actress an extremely uncomfortable and honestly inappropriate question regarding her former partner, Burt Reynolds, during a sit-down years ago. Winfrey asked Fields whether Burt slept with his toupee on or off, and for Fields' response, she went cold on Winfrey. Winfrey herself addressed this awkward interview back in 2021, where she revealed she now cringes at the thought of asking Fields that horrific and very surface-level kind of boring interview question. She also understands why Fields went cold following that question, but Oprah, as she said, knows she deserved it. Oprah does claim her producers said she had to ask Fields that question, which she did, and it caused Fields to completely shut off, and Oprah says they were both unable to get into the groove of the interview again. Number 1, Tom Cruise. This one was extremely popular and talked about. Though if we're being honest, I really don't see what all the fuss and uproar was about, but you know, whatever, it was early 2000s, I wasn't alive, whatever. This gets our first place spot due to the damage it was expected to do on the ultra famous Tom Cruise's career. While appearing on Oprah's talk show, Tom Cruise began jumping up and down on the couch like an actual child, screaming that he was in love and then air punching the floor, or something like that. I'm honestly not sure. Tell me what you think he's doing, please, because I don't know. Anyway, Oprah's reaction to this whole ordeal is what actually makes this entire thing so awkward. She looks at him like he is actually insane, like he's this weird creature, which I mean, fair, but it creates a very awkward air that surrounds the entirety of the interaction. After the incident, Tom Cruise faced a lot of backlash in the up and coming tabloid universe and displayed for the first time just how much power and influence tabloids are capable of wielding.